In 1978, one of the craziest trades in NBA history occurred. It wasn't just between draft picks or players, but two entire franchises. This is the story of how two owners completely traded teams. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to High Fiving Strangers. My name is Clint, and you heard that right. This is a story about how two NBA owners just completely traded franchises with each other. I started this channel because I love sports, and I really wanted to get into the history of it, and I'm quickly learning I don't know much.
I don't know shit about fuck.
I was cruising on the information superhighway, trying to find an interesting topic to cover this week when I came across this one, and it blew my freaking mind. I can't believe I'd never heard of this before. Back in 1978, the owner of the Boston Celtics traded his ownership rights with the owner of the Buffalo Braves just straight up. He said, "You can have my team if I can have your team." Now, if you aren't a huge NBA fan, maybe those names don't hold any weight, so let me give you some perspective. The Boston Celtics are not only a part of the original NBA teams that formed the league back in 1946, but statistically the best franchise that's ever existed. They not only hold the record for best overall winning percentage by any team that's ever played, but they also have the most titles won with 18. Now let's contrast that with the Buffalo Braves, who were founded just 8 years prior, and the season before this trade happened finished with the second worst record in the entire NBA. Seems like an insanely lopsided trade, so why on earth would the Celtics owner ever agree to this? Well, that's because it was his idea.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
At the time, the Celtics were owned by a man named Irv Levin, who was a film producer and businessman, and Harold Lipton, a lawyer and also a businessman. I love that they describe these two dudes as just businessman. Like, what the hell does that even mean? You're a businessman. I mean, I guess in the 70s, a businessman is just some rich white dude who's in the C-suite, which is exactly what these two dudes were. Though their ownership stake in the Celtics did have a weird start. In 1972, they attempted to purchase the Celtics for $3.7 million, but the league rejected their deal. The reason the league gave for this was because the two were directors for National General Pictures, and so were the two owners of the Seattle Supersonics. They said this would create a conflict of interest, not wanting two owners of two separate teams to also be in business together outside of the NBA. So they sold the team to Robert Schmertz, but after a legal battle, they were able to regain half of the ownership back. But Schmertz died in 1975, and they eventually took over full ownership. Don't worry, I don't really understand it either, but long story short, they bought the team, the league said, "I don't think so." They took them to court, and the court said, "I do think so," so now they own the team.
Okay.
So you're a businessman in the 1970s. You just fought for years to finally become the owner of the Boston Celtics, one of the most storied franchises in all of sports. A team that has won 13 titles up to this point, including the first year you're a full-time owner in the 75-76 season.
Herb Levin, come over here. The president of the ball club. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that this is a great tribute to a great ball club, and especially in this year, because I think that the teams are most well-balanced of any time in the history of the NBA. And I also want to pay a great tribute to the Phoenix Suns because they gave us one heck of a battle. And I'm so happy. Come here, Harold. My partner, Harold Lipton, I'm sure feels the same way.
I certainly do. A great tribute to the league, to the teams, especially to the Celtics and to the boys who did a fantastic job.
And I want to tell you, Tommy Heinsohn deserves...
Where is Tommy? Tommy Heinsohn out here.
You've hit the jackpot. But you don't care because the team is in Boston, you live in California, and you want your team to be in the city you live in. So he fought with the league to try to allow him to relocate the team from Boston into California. But the league refused because A, that's a pretty crazy request, and B, they wanted to keep the team in Boston. And instead of just accepting the fact that he bought a team in Boston and they're going to stay in Boston, he came up with a plan. And allow me to sidetrack us all here for a second for a "whoa, that's crazy" sliding doors moment in the NBA. See, all of this takes place right before Larry Bird and Magic Johnson enter the NBA, which means if he would have been granted permission to move the team, those iconic Celtics-Lakers finals would have never happened. Which I guess now if I think about it, that rivalry probably would have been even crazier if that had happened because they would have played each other essentially every year in the conference finals instead of just 3 times in the actual finals. Either way, a crazy thing to think about. Okay, back to Irv's plan. He really wants to own an NBA team, but he really wants that NBA team he owns to be in the city that he lives in, which makes sense. But he owns a team in Boston and doesn't want to live in Boston. So he has an epiphany of sorts. If they won't let me move my team, what team will they let move? Bring in the Buffalo Braves. The Buffalo Braves were founded in 1970 and were one of 3 NBA expansion teams that year, the other 2 being the Portland Trail Blazers and the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were originally owned by an investment firm in New York, but due to some legal and financial issues, had to relinquish their ownership right before the season started, leading to 33-year-old Paul Schneider to buy the team. How does a 33-year-old have enough money to buy an NBA team, you ask? Well, when he was 20, he started a company called Freezer Queen, which was a pioneer in the TV dinner industry. Does this have anything to do with the trade? No. I just thought it was an interesting fact.
It's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane. Can I hear it again? Do you have time?
They finished their first season in second to last place in the entire league with a record of 22-60, and then followed up the next year by doing the exact same thing, coming in second to last place with a record of 22-60. Sadly, the next year they dipped down to 21-61, but still managed to come in second to last place. They were able to turn it around a little bit there, and in the next 3 seasons they actually made the playoffs. After the 1975-1976 season, the team was sold to John Brown Jr., and guess what? He was also a businessman. Now, I'm sure all of you are waiting on the edge of your seat for me to tell you how this guy had enough money to buy the team after that super interesting quip about Paul Schneider.
Wow, that is very interesting. Please tell me more.
Well, this one actually is way more interesting than frozen TV dinners. He was a part of the group that bought KFC from the original owner Colonel Sanders and turned it from the family restaurant it was to the fast food giant we know today. The group bought KFC back in 1964 for $2 million. And then in 1971, John Brown sold just his interest in the company for $284 million. I'm going to repeat that again because it's fucking crazy. In 1964, the entire company was worth $2 million. And then 7 years later, John Brown sold just his interest in the company for $284 million. Now let's put that in perspective of today's currency. In 1964, $2 million is worth about $20 million today. And in 1971, $284 million is worth $2.2 billion. And if you're a billionaire, what's the best and most fun thing you can invest your money in? Owning a sports team. The first of which was actually the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA. See, the current ownership was threatening to move them to Kansas City, so he bought the team to make sure they stayed in Kentucky. But when the ABA and NBA merged, there was no room for the Colonels in the league and the team folded. Brown then took the $3 million he was given for the Colonels folding and bought the Buffalo Braves. And even though at one point he had ownership in both the Kentucky Colonels and KFC the restaurant, the two actually don't have anything to do with each other. Just a pure coincidence. The team was not named after Colonel Sanders. Off topic, my last name is Sanders, and my grandfather looked a little bit like Colonel Sanders back in the day. Sadly, there's no relation, just an insane coincidence. So please share this video with everyone you know, buy my merch because I'm not sitting on a fried chicken trust fund. So back to the Braves. The first 3 years they're in the league, total trash. Then the next 3 they actually make the playoffs, John Brown buys the team, and then straight back to the gutter, which is unfortunate for him. Well, I guess that may be totally unfortunate for him if you remember what this video is about, which I know is hard because I keep squirreling and going on these tangents. But hey, at least these tangents are relevant to the story that I'm trying to tell and not just random tidbits from my life. Okay, let's get back to it. The guy who owns the Boston Celtics wants to move that team to California, but the league won't let him move that franchise. Emphasis on that franchise. But we're talking about a businessman here. And what do businessmen do? Business. He looks around the league and sets his sights on the lowly Buffalo Braves. The team is basically brand new, they're not very good, so there's no real connection or loyalty built into the city that they're in, so the league probably won't care if the owner of this team wants to relocate. So Levin meets up with Brown to discuss something that I didn't even know was actually a possibility, trading the ownership of their franchises. And that was it, just a straight up trade, no monetary compensation or anything, just, okay, now you own this team and I own that team. Which is crazy. He wanted a team in California so bad that he was willing to give up the pillar of NBA teams with 13 titles, the Boston Celtics, for some shitty expansion team and no compensation. There were a few players exchanged in the deal, but there were no draft picks. And in that year's draft, the Boston Celtics would select Larry Bird. Now, I've been talking about the Buffalo Braves this entire episode, and if you watch the league, you know that team doesn't exist anymore. I've also said several times that Levin wanted to move the team he owns to California. So have you put 2 and 2 together yet on what team they turned into? If you have, comment down below what team you think it is. I'll wait, don't worry, we'll give you some time. I'm singing the Jeopardy song in my head, but I'm not allowed to sing it out loud or else I'll get copyright struck. Does anyone know what the title of that song is called? It's called Think. The More You Know. Okay, that's probably plenty of time. Everybody's rushed to the comments. They're just filled with answers. What do you got? The Buffalo Braves moved to San Diego and changed their name to the Clippers. They would then eventually make the move up to Los Angeles to become what is now the Los Angeles Clippers. So there's an alternate universe out there somewhere where Larry Bird plays for the San Diego Celtics and another alternate universe where he plays for the San Diego Clippers. That just looks weird. What a crazy story and something I doubt we will ever see anywhere in sports ever again. Thanks for watching this episode of High Fiving Strangers. Like, subscribe, and comment down below what player, team, or event you want to see me cover next. The best way to support the channel is picking up some merch. Like, are you like me and have gone to the same gym for 5 years and the only real social interaction you've ever had with a human is giving them one of these? Well, check out the Antisocial Lifting Club. It's not that I don't want to make friends with anybody, it's that I'm a guy in my mid-30s and I don't know how to make friends with anybody. So I'm just going to show up, throw my headphones on, listen to a podcast, and push some weight around. Anyway, as always, get out there and high-five some strangers. Traded his ownership rights with the guy who owned the Buffalo Sabres. Fucking Sabres. Braves. Buffalo Braves. See, all of this takes place right before Larry Johnson